Hello, chat. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in. What's up? Inkpot, Helen, Ace Flower, first time message, welcome in. Blah blah, first time, welcome. Granola, Ophelia, here, Roach, Sleepy, Dan. Wow, so many new folks. Uh, Dr. Adina K, Loading Ding, welcome in. Thanks, buddy. Streaking, there we go. Yes. Roach, rate me. Is that correct? Yes. I've got to hydrate. Hello. Yes, thank you, thank you. Cheers. Um, big day in Bug World. Ain't that true, casual? Oh, thanks. It's not milk. That's crazy. It is. It's an iced tea thing that I have repurposed for water. Getting tarantulas. Well, good. Good place to start then. I think. Inkpot. We've got some tarantula stuff happening today. Um, over the past week, I have had 3 tarantulas molt. And so the molts are soaking at the moment, but hopefully we will be able to tell whether or not some of these are males or females. Um, at least one of them is something that I am like pretty sure I confirmed as a female before. Um, so that'll be nice to get double double confirmation. Um, and then one of them is something that I don't think I've ever gotten a successful, like a full molt out of before. Loading, thank you. Ah, 1200. Sick. Thank you, thank you. Um, yeah, so we're gonna start with that because that's new stuff that's happened in the last week or so. Then I do owe you guys termite time. Do you know what termite time is? No, but I owe it to you. So we're gonna do that second, since we ran out of time on the last stream. And then I also grabbed my box of mysteries out of the freezer. So the box of mysteries are not like total unknowns. This is just uh my box of miscellaneous vials that still have bugs in them that need to get looked at. So if we have time, we might get through some of this, uh, but maybe not. When I come to Australia, do you want to go fishing? I absolutely do. I don't think you were here for it. But last stream when I was talking about getting my new car and stuff, I picked up a ton of fishing stuff from my grandfather. Um, he can't see super well to like tie the knots and do that stuff anymore. And he was like, "Why would you buy it? Just take all the stuff." So I brought. I went from 0 fishing rods to 11 fishing rods in the span of like a weekend. Um, Saltwater and freshwater. I'm actually the state gave us off from July 2nd to 6th. So I have a bit of a trip planned coming up here at the end of this week to maybe go fishing. There's actually some line right there that I was putting on some reels the other day. Don't like the bug mystery box? That's crazy. I think that's the exciting stuff. But yeah, we're gonna get to termite time. We're gonna do that first. Or no, no, we're not. We're doing tarantula sexing first because that's ready to go. Um, so we've done this at least once before, uh, on stream. So what's going to happen is I'm going to take the exoskeletons, the shed exoskeletons. Store bought. Thank you. I'm hope it's not crazy hot. Well, do I have some bad news? It is quite warm, but it's Florida. It kind of is. So I've been soaking these exoskeletons just so they can get a little bit pliable. And there's a very specific part of the exoskeleton that we look at um to basically tell if it's male or female or not. Um it is the shape of the spermatheca. So when tarantulas mate, the female has a structure inside of her abdomen that will store sperm uh somewhat long term. She can keep it alive in there until conditions are right and things like that, and she's ready to lay eggs. And if you can see that structure developing inside of the tarantula, and you can see that when it sheds its skin, you can see whether it's a female or not. Um, so we're going to be trying to open these up. Um, it's a little bit finicky, as you can imagine. Exoskeletons are quite brittle, which is why I was soaking them. So hopefully they'll be a little bit more pliable now. Um, but if the particular part of the exoskeleton that we need to see is torn or broken or whatever, uh, we just can't do it right now, and that's fine. Um, Casual, that's crazy. Um, yeah. So this is not. This doesn't really change anything. Uh, it doesn't change how I'm going to take care of these tarantulas. It's not going to change how I feed them or anything like that. It's just when you buy tarantulas as babies, they're super small, like a quarter of an inch or whatever. Um, you don't know, right? Like you have to wait until kittens get a certain age until you're easy to tell, whatever. Um, with tarantulas, nothing really changes with it. You don't have to get them spayed or neutered or anything like that. It's just a matter of how much time generally you get with them. Male tarantulas will mature a lot faster than their female egg sac mates. Um, and that's because when the males are mature, their siblings won't be. And it sort of offsets where the newest mature males have to mate with different females than the ones that they're related to. Big shock. Evolution doesn't like when you mate with your siblings. So that's why males mature so much faster. It's so that they mate with like the generation before them rather than their own siblings. Um, but what that means in a pet keeping context is that uh, you don't get to keep them for as long. Male tarantulas from like egg through adulthood can be as short as like 3 to 5 years, upwards of like 8 in some cases. But once they do mature, once they're fully mature and they're ready to go, um, they only really live for another like 6 to 18 months. Um, Part of the reason being, they're spending a ton of energy on the hunt for females. So if you've ever seen like news stories about the tarantula migrations, those are not migrations in the true sense. Those are just males on the run looking for females. But if you end up with a female tarantula and you have a female that you're keeping as a pet, then you can expect to potentially have that thing for upwards of 20 years, depending on the species and all sorts of other factors. So it plays into giving you an idea of how long you're going to have a certain individual. Um, but it also, if you're in a position to do this, and I'm not saying that I am, and I don't think I ever will be, but um female confirmed females are worth way more if I were to try to sell any of my spiders. Um have to almost 60. Yeah, that's crazy, Roach. Long-term pets like that, it's crazy to think about, and especially with like a quote unquote bug, people don't really expect that. Um but some of these spiders that I have I got when I lived in Florida last time. And so they moved from Florida to Kansas to Arizona and now have moved back to Florida with me. Um, and I think that's kind of crazy is that I've had some of these things so long term that they've actually like lived in three separate states. Um, females, confirmed females of certain species will go for like uh sorry, I guess let's back up and think about it from the beginning. If you're buying an unsexed little tarantula, you have the possibility that it's going to be a male and you'll only have a set amount of time with it, or you have a female that's going to live like in theory a lot longer of a time. If you're buying a confirmed female, you have the ability to have it for a very long time, and you have the ability to Rebecca, thank you. 3 months. You have the ability to potentially breed her, right? And so females are a lot more expensive because you have that opportunity of then making eggs and selling off babies, essentially. And so in one instance, I have a species called the Brazilian black, Grammostola uh, pulchra, Grammostola pulchra. Um, Buying a sling like a baby one is anywhere from like 50 to 60 bucks. A mature female is over 700. So it increases a lot in terms of what their value is, and part of that is like making sure it gets to adulthood, which can take like 10 to 12 years. So there's a time component to it, but if you can sell them like as a confirmed female, regardless of size, you can get more money for them if you were going to sell things. I have bred tarantulas in the past. I have sold tarantulas in the past. It's a pain in the butt. Sharks, hello. Welcome in. Um it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to raise them and watch them grow and whatnot. Uh but it is a giant pain when you're hypothetically uh your tarantula went off, had a really good mating run, and produced somewhere on the order of like 600 babies. And I split that with the guy whose female that I sent my male off to, but I got 50% of it back, which means that I got 300 baby spiders. Do you know how long it takes to feed 300 baby spiders? And you want to get them past that like super early baby, really fragile stage. So you feed them like 2 to 3 times a week to like keep their metabolism up and keep them growing. All my other tarantulas that I have now, everybody gets fed once a week. Baby spiders, 300 of them getting fed 3 times a week is unobtainable. It's really really awful. like Mike's. How do you even house them? Ketchup cups. You ever been to like a food court and they have the little like 2 ounce deli cups that you put your ketchup in? I order a bulk bin of those and use that. Uh, so you get the ketchup cups, that's a whole thing, and then you need to feed them fruit flies. That's really like the only thing that's small enough that works for them. And so then I also have 2 to 3 different colonies of fruit flies going at a time. And fruit flies are a pain in the butt because if they get out, then you just have a ton of fruit flies in your house. So I did the tarantula breeding thing once. Um and it was kind of fun at some level. Uh but then it wasn't fun anymore. So I don't know that I'm ever really going to plan on doing that again. Um it was nice to get the experience and I know I could do it again, but wasn't really for me. As a mantis and fruit flies. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's why it matters whether or not these are male or female. Um, for my purposes, it doesn't really, but these are the reasons why somebody might want to find out. And I'm just curious, so that's what we're going to move into now. We'll give you so for those of you who are new here, we have our microscope camera. So this is hooked up to the stream. I can see it here, and you guys can see it on the stream. I have a paper towel going down, so I can put the wet exoskeletons down and not get my station all damp. And then I have one good pair of forceps already. Uh, and then I have this roll of forceps that I haven't yet unpacked from when I moved like a year ago because I have a bajillion pairs of forceps. Um, but I can select another pair of like good ones to help me with this process. Um, I think there are like at least a dozen pairs of forceps here that are stuck into packing peanuts so I don't ruin the tips on them. So one of these is going to help me be the other hand as I'm trying to open up these exoskeletons. At a work happy hour in New York City. Damn. Tortilla fancy. Fancy, but thank you for stopping by. Chest Thistle, thank you for the follow. All right. So, uh, we'll start with this one. This is a species that you are all familiar with. This is one of my other curly hair tarantulas. Thank you, Tortilla, for 10 months. This is another curly hair tarantula. For those of you Alveus viewers, um, this is the same species as kiwi. And this is part of the reason why I was able to give Alveus kiwi is because I had a couple of this species. Um, Inkpot, if you're still here, curly hair is a really good thought for a starter species. They're very chill, very easy. So definitely would think about this one at least. Yeah, Rebecca, I gave both of them to Alveus. Those were both mine. And as I was moving across the country last year, Maya was talking about like, oh god, I would love a tarantula for Alveus, and I said, well, I've got about 60 of them that we're gonna have to move into your tiny house for the night. Uh, you can pick one. That's fine. So this is curly hair that I've had for a while. they do have these very long hairs, and some of it's clumped together because it is wet. Like I said, it was just in a cup of water. But the part that we're concerned about, let me just reorient all this. This is the front. These are all of the front legs. We separate this a little bit. Here are the fangs, or the chelicerae. Technically, the fangs are underneath. Inside, here's the body cavity. Uh, Sorry if anybody's weird about holes, but there's all the legs. Here is the folded up abdomen with the spinnerets, so where the silk comes out, right back here. And then all of this coming back here, all the way up to the head cap. Um, the tarantula basically just pops the hood and comes out that way. So the headpiece is still attached to the top of the abdomen. It all just hinges back and opens up. Um, you can see here on the head capsule, if we flip it over, those are their eyes. Lobsters need to learn. What do lobsters need to learn? I don't know what the lobsters are doing, but anyway. Um oh, Mike, thank you. Thank you for the sub. Lobsters do it a little bit differently. They shimmy out the tail. Hype train. That's crazy. It is anybody 35% off all gift subs left for 4 days if anybody wants to gift some. The level that I want to get to 4 or 7. I don't think I need. I got all of the emotes, so we don't need to stop anywhere specific. We can just go. Thistle, thank you, thank you. How many eyes do tarantulas have? They have 8. So we're looking at a good example right here. Each one of these little clear spots in the head is an eye. So they've got 3 separate pairs. As far as I know, all tarantulas have 8. Um, but there are certain spider groups that will have fewer than 8. There are some spiders that are very well known, like brown recluses, that have 6. Um, and there are some like cave dwelling spiders and stuff that don't have any eyes. Mini Pearl, thank you. Thanks for the 5. Thank you, thank you. There are ads coming in about 5 minutes, so anybody who's interested in skipping that, now's your chance. So this end of the tarantula where we're at right now is not really what we need to do what we're trying to look at right now. We want to see what's on the underside, or on the inside of the bottom of the abdomen. So if we move back up this way and we get to the body cavity portion again, this piece here is the abdomen, and being able to unfold this is why I needed to soak them in water. Because when this dries up, it's very, very crispy. And so to be able to untangle like I'm doing right now, they need to be a little bit. So we'll look at this in a second here. Other arachnid groups have other standard eye numbers. I think it's mostly 8, bro. Scorpions will also have 8. They've got the 2 right on top, and then like 3 on each side. Like right above where the claws are. They also have 8 normally, but not always. And as far as like vinegaroons and camel spiders and all that stuff, I'm not really sure what their standard numbers are. So crazy, yeah. So, yeah, some of you have an idea about what's happening already and like what we're looking at. So these white patches that we see here and here are the book lungs. And so insects have spiracles, or they have those little holes that run down the length of the body. Arachnids don't have that, and tarantulas in particular have these things called book lungs. The structure inside of them is different than what you get uh inside of a spiracle, but the lung of the spider when it's alive is on the underside of the abdomen. So we're looking at like the butt part right now, but we're looking at the inside of the butt part right now. So typically you can see them uh on the outside. So like folded it all back together. But like there's a lung right there. Now I have to reopen colonoscopies. So now I have to go back in and reopen that. And the area that we care about is right here between the front pair of book lungs. So again, this direction where the forceps are is towards the head. This is the first pair of book lungs, and then this is the second pair. And what we are looking for is some type of structure right in this area. So where's my box? Where's my box of bolts? It's like a SCOBY. Okay. So I found a box. Very important box. You know how Maya keeps like a little baby book of all of the different invertebrates that Alveus has? So she has the scorpion molts growing up and things like that. This is my box. It is less organized. And I have had invertebrates for a lot longer than Alveus has. So this is my box of molts. Mop, what's up? Welcome in, welcome in. This is not all of them over the years. These are just ones that have been in relatively good condition to save. I've got all kinds of different species in here, and things like that. So we have this big box of molts. Base camp. Hello. Let me find. This is a good one. So it's kind of hard to see like what we're looking for if we don't know like what we're supposed to be seeing. To tell if it's male or female or not. This is a different spider. So the one that we're looking at now is not going to look like this. But right in here between the book lungs, you can see there's like this flap that has little projections on it. So, like right here, this little flap with the projections, that's the spermatheca. That is what we're looking for. But this one has very, very distinct rami is what the little structures inside are called. Um the shape of the spermatheca is different in all of the tarantulas. So this is a pink toe tarantula. Anyone who hasn't seen, the spider has very cute little pink booties on. So that's what they look like in that species. This is a Chilean rosehair tarantula. That was also a female. And so here's the flap. And here's the little structure right on the edge. That's what we're looking for right now in the wet molt that we were trying to observe. Now, I will say that in all of my years of tarantula keeping and all of the many hundreds of spiders that I have tried to tell the sex of doing it, curly hairs do not have a very noticeable spermatheca. Even when it's there, it's pretty hard to tell. Um and I would their flap is demure. Really flap not one of the good curly hair ones. Freaking next bit. So what I'm going to say is I do not always feel confident with this species. Um so let's do flap check. Okay. Okay. So there are a set of paired structures. The stuff that's moving around right now is floating in the water, so that if you see any movement, it's because of that. We are seeing some paired structures. There's a little knob right here, and there's another one sort of like right here. Um, but I am not seeing a flap. So it's not just if there's a structure there, because males will also have something going on. Uh, it just doesn't seem like there is a specific flap here to call this a female. So I think this is a male. Congrats, gender reveal. Uh, this doesn't bother me at all. Like I said, I have several of this species. I do have a confirmed female, so that's always nice. Um, I don't think this one is. So I so I will mark this on the tank as male question mark, and then hopefully the next time that it molts, if it is a female, it will be a more well defined flap if it is a female. And if it's a male, it's a male. Not a big deal. Nothing really to worry about. So that was our first one. We've got two more. I don't know if the third one's going to be usable because the spider kind of ripped it to shreds before I got it out. But I do want to show one other cool thing before we move off of this one, which is like in such nice condition. Is the underside of the face. So in here, you have the actual fangs of the tarantula. So these structures right here are the chelicerae, or like the muscular attachments for the fangs. The fangs themselves are just this end piece here that I'm holding with the forceps right now. So this is the underside. This is like the underside of the head and of the mouth. The fangs I think are very very cool. These ones look like they broke off sometime during the molt, so we can't actually see the like the opening where the venom comes out and stuff like that. But something that most people might not know, what is the tiny circle between the chelicerae? What a great question, Starberry. So right here, right here at the base, bit more. That is actually the opening to the mouth. So spiders, unlike what most people think, they don't just slurp their food up through their fangs. They will envenomate their things and start to digest it externally, but then they will use their pedipalps and everything to help grab that food and get it in here in this area where they can then slurp everything up. So yeah, that's the opening to the stomach that actually goes inside the body. Crunching, they sure do. Okay, next. we'll probably be able to get this one. So this is the exoskeleton from a Socotra Island blue tarantula. This is Monosyntropus balfouri. And this one, um, this one's pretty cool. This might be one of my favorites that I have. Partially because of the story, but also partially because of how it looks. You guys can see like right here, it's a little bit not as bright as typical because of it being wet, but their legs are blue. Their legs are very blue, their body is tan, so it's this really cool like color combo, color contrast on this spider. Um and I really like it. This one is what we would call an old world tarantula. And new world tarantulas are going to be any species that's from the Americas, so North, Central, South America. Anything that's African, Asian, or Australian is going to be old world. And what the difference is in terms of like how they actually are, new world tarantulas generally, and I'm saying this as a general statement, not always the case, but most of the time, new world species, so any of them that are found in the Americas, will generally have less potent venom. New world tarantulas have these things called urticating hairs, which are like little barbed hairs that they have on their abdomen that they will kick off uh to deter something from eating them. If you've ever gotten kicked or haired by a tarantula, it feels like fiberglass. They're tiny and they're sharp and they're very itchy. And so if you're bothering a new world tarantula, generally they will turn around and just start kicking hairs off of their abdomen at you. Now for us, it's annoying and like, kind of icky. If you're like a coyote or something, and you're going to eat the tarantula, you're now getting these like little itty bitty tiny splinters all in like your mouth, nose, and eyes. And that's very no good. So that is typically their first chemical defense or their first line of defense. They can still bite, they still do have venom, but in general, they have this other way of defending themselves first that they will go to first before trying to bite. Do they grow the hairs back? Yes, but only after a molt. So they can go completely bald, and then when they shed again, their hairs will grow back. They will not. If it's an adult and it uses its hairs, then it's kind of used up. Um, and so because of that, anybody who's thinking about getting getting tarantulas, I would definitely recommend starting with a new world. Um, old world tarantulas don't have urticating hairs, so they don't have like the itchy splinter things. Thank you, Casual, for getting that because that's exactly how I would describe it. Um, instead of that, they just have more potent venom. They're generally faster. They're generally kind of mean. Uh, and they have a lot stronger of venom in general. So, old worlds, you get some of the really pretty tarantulas, um, like this guy, um, or Eslitherium metallica. This whole genus are pretty remarkable, but this is sort of like the standard. This is the big one. But you've also got Syria ornata, which is really pretty. Um, but yeah, in general, these are some of these really pretty spiders, but they're fast and they're mean as hell. The one that we have on the table right now, go back to this, our blue one. This is a Socotra Island blue tarantula, or Monosyntropus balfouri. Socotra is, um, I think it's Yemen, right? Anybody know their geography better than me? Socotra is like a little tiny island in the Middle East, and I think it belongs to Yemen. At least it's in that like area. Really weird biodiversity on that island. They've got these crazy trees, they've got these crazy insects, all kinds of stuff. Um, the Socotra Island blue is particularly interesting amongst uh tarantula keepers because they're subsocial and you can keep them together in a group. Uh Most spiders, not a thing you can do. Um they will eat each other. They don't really share very well. But because this is such a small island, these tarantulas can like live communally. And there are some people that have these like really big boxes, these really big like, 100-gallon tanks that just have colonies of like 50 or 60 tarantulas in them. Super cool. But these, because they can do this subsocial thing and they look really pretty. Let me swap that back over so you can see the other screen. This is what they look like. They're this really neat like tan and blue color. Um the babies of these, because you can buy them in groups like this, and they can live together and things like that. The babies are oftentimes like 80 to $100 a piece. So they're pretty expensive. Imagine my surprise when I get to a pet store in Arizona and I'm there looking for a different species. I'm there looking for a Chaco golden knee, which is a new world, very friendly, super chill. Oh, Beechings, thanks for the follow. Welcome in. Um, I was going to look for a different species because they advertised that they had them for 20 bucks. 20 bucks is nothing to spend on a spider. So I was like, yes, I'm going to go make sure I get one of those. I'm going through the containers and I see this tarantula that is 100% not a golden knee. Nick Kelly, thank you for the follow. Welcome in. Uh, and it's not labeled, but I know what it is. There's like only so many spiders that look like this, and I'm pretty sure that number is one. Good night, Space Camp. Thanks for stopping by. Um, I go, they have this spider, and I'm like, oh, how much for this one? Because it's a species that I was interested in. Uh, and it was labeled for 60 bucks. I was like, okay, that's like pretty fair, all things considered, with like how much the babies cost and everything. So I was like, oh, hey, like, are you guys firm on this one? Like, are you good with this price? And the guy goes, I'll give it to you for 20. And what? Why? Like, what are you? He he's supposed to be trying to make money, and he offered. I was looking, maybe like $10 off. He was like, no, 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 I'm gonna cut it down $40. And I was like, why? Like, what's wrong with it? And he goes, that son of a bitch is so mean. I hate feeding it. I hate having to get in the shop. I just want to get rid of it. And I said, you, sir, have got yourself a deal. I'll take it. Made off like a bandit with this thing because uh males and females in this group have different leg patterns. Uh Here. The male is you're not on my screen. The male is here on the right, the female is here on the left. She has much tanner uh up through the tibia, while his blue kind of goes all the way back to the body. Um Now I don't think it's 100% reliable in immatures. And so I was still taking a bit of a gamble on it, but based on her size and the color pattern that I was seeing, I was like, I bet this is a female. And so I have looked at her molts before, and I am like 95% sure that this is a female. Electric Beagaloo. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in. Um, so I'm pretty sure, like 90+% sure that this is a female. I just want to look again to, see if I can confirm. So I think we are going to hop back onto the scope now and see what's up. So just like the last one, to kind of orient the couple of new people that have come in, um, this is the exoskeleton of a tarantula. These are the holes where the legs go. And then this piece here is the underside of the abdomen that's all kind of folded up. So I now have these fine tip forceps, and I'm going to be trying to separate this piece because the thing we need to see to tell whether it's a female or not is between the front pair of book lungs. Trying to open this. It's soggy in here because this was in fact sitting in a cup of water just before stream. So just getting it nice and pliable so I'm able to open it up and hopefully be able to see what's going on in here. Now you might notice with this one that we don't have a ton of extra back here. Uh the lid, essentially. The top, like the part of the cap that was on the head and the top of the abdomen on this one, broke off. Um so there's not all this extra bit, but the stuff that we do still need is here. So we are okay on that. Bookworm instead of booklong. Bookworms are a different stream casual. Am I anti-invert pet handling? Um, in general, yes. Um, I personally do not. Um, I have a handful of individuals that like I can handle if I wanted to, but it just doesn't really make sense to me. Um, they're really fragile. Even if they're like sort of used to it, something could spook them where they would then run off your hand. It's dangerous for them. You could always get bit or haired or whatever. Um, so I don't really see the point with it. Particularly with these things, other individuals like a blue death feigning beetle or any sort of beetle in general really are fine to handle. Um, Tarantulas, it's sort of hit or miss. It's an individual like personality thing whether or not they can like deal with and handle being handled or not. Um, but an old world species like this, uh, you're just being an asshole if you're trying to handle it. You're being like, oh look, I can pick up the dangerous thing and it's fine. I think it's stupid to try it with anything like this. New worlds, yes, you know, every bug museum on the planet probably has a rose hair tarantula named Rosie that, you know, thousands of kids have had their first experience with a tarantula that way. Um, and I'm not gonna like knock that, but personally, I don't. Um, and I think trying to handle any of the old world stuff is dangerous. So, not my thing really. Is the end point there. Just a heads up, there's ads coming in about 2 minutes. If you want to check for your timers. Uh, get some stick insects. And I see people hand them all the time, and I don't know if that's safe. Stick insects are a little bit different than tarantulas in terms of like ease of being handled and willingness to be handled. Um, Stick bugs, I think, are definitely safer for them. Arachnids, just in general, have thinner exoskeletons than insects do, and so a drop to them is more dangerous than a drop to like a stick bug or a beetle or anything like that. So I think handling stick bugs would be fine. Um, does the stick bug particularly enjoy it? Probably not. Is it kind of funny when they get on your hand and do the like get stick bug sort of thing? Yeah, of course it is. Um, but yeah, I think stick bugs would be an okay one to handle. When you start getting into like scorpions and centipedes and tarantulas and stuff like that, my level of interest in handling them goes way down. So probably fine. Similar reptile spaces, people love to post pics. Yeah, absolutely, Roach. Older ones, the ones that murder you with venom, right? Catastrophically Emma. Thank you for the first time message. Casual kind of got it there for me. Not murder necessarily. They do have significant venom, but it is not generally enough to murder. We have giant desert centipedes here in Arizona. You sure do. Uh, Up until last year, I lived in Arizona, so have seen, have gotten them in the wild there. Okay, so going back in here, spreading things out. We're again looking right between the front air book lungs. Soaking up some of the water here. What do we think about that, chat? Flap, flap, flap. Subtle, soggy. Yes, correct. Um, Small flap. A flap is a flap nonetheless. So, like I said, I was upwards of 90% sure this was a female. So this was going to be like really embarrassing if it was in fact not. But yeah, so again to orient what we're looking at here, this is a book lung and this is a book lung, and we're looking at this little section here in the middle, and there is in fact a flap. Hopefully you guys can see that on the stream. You can see how it's flipping and flapping over. Great. This is a female. Automod. What are we doing? Ophelia can say cooch. It's fine. We'll allow it. So yeah, great. This is a female. W gender reveal. But yes, it is quite subtle. So now that you guys have seen it, in practice, right? Like you've seen what one looks like. You can understand why this is not like uh it's hard, right? And if we didn't have a microscope, this sucks. This sucks to try. So, I have had pretty good luck, like all time, um, all time luck, I guess I would say, with getting female tarantulas. And this one particularly was a species that I was looking for, really wanted to get, got it at a stupid cheap rate because the guy at the shop did not like it. And then like 2 weeks after I bought it, it molted, and I was able to check and confirm that it was a female. That was probably like 4 years ago at this point. So there have been several molts since that initial one. She keeps getting bigger. She makes a lot of web, which is like a really common characteristic of Monosyntropus. They're very webby. They make these really dense mats all the time, which is really cool. And so she's female. I'll probably have her for a pretty long time, which is nice. So excellent confirmation on that one. And again, sort of the color pattern difference that we were looking at. You can see that the basal segments here are still very tan, and then it turns to blue at the patella and then goes down. Males, this would be blue through here. So even without uh even without seeing the spermatheca, we would be able to assume this is female. And her name is Granola. You're not gonna like my answer. Well, you might. It's fine. Um, I have a hard time naming my invertebrates, particularly because there's a lot of them. Uh, and using names, I'm like, well, what if it's a good name and then it dies? What am I gonna do? This is one of like maybe maybe like 5 to 8 spiders of like 40 that I have that actually have names. Her name is Astrid. And that is because one of the other really famous, like really weird um biodiversity things on Socotra, on this island that they're from, is the Socotra dragon tree. Really odd growth form, looks like this, and this is unique to the island. And of course, Astrid is the female lead in How to Train Your Dragon. So, How to Train Your Dragon, Dragon Tree, name the spider that. So that's how we got to Astrid. Um, yeah, it's just a really cool. It's a cool area. I've never been, but they've got cool wildlife there, including this cool plant thing. So yes, her name is Astrid. Uh, but I do have a lot of things that just have numbers. And people think that's weird, and I get it, but like when you have so many, what do you do? What do you do? Right. That was Astrid. Now, this last one, I don't know if we're gonna be able to do anything with. The molt happened. I got out what I could, but I have no idea if it's in enough pieces to actually do anything. Um, so this molt is much smaller than what we've been dealing with already. This is the whole thing. This is all we got. And it's also pretty busted up, but I think it has the pieces that we need to check. Do a bit of unfolding here. Uh, all right. Now it sort of looks like a little bit more like a spider. So here is the abdomen going back. Up here would be the head, but it's all completely broken off. And you can see we're missing some legs over on this side. These tarantulas eat their molts like other spiders. No, not really. Um, they will, and this is a little gross. They do like ball them up and use that siphon pump that they have, like their mouth part for sucking up liquid, to sort of gain back some of the liquid that they lost. So they will basically chew on it like a wet rag to get the moisture back. But they don't eat it per se. They don't like completely ingest it. But generally, tarantulas will molt and then they hang out for a while. Molting is a very vulnerable time in their life. And so in the wild, they will hang out for like a couple of days, even upwards of a week in a burrow somewhere, trying not to get seen and trying not to get consumed by other predators. Thankfully for me, within a week time, I have to go through and feed everybody. So I am pretty on top of getting molts out as they happen, which is why I'm able to get to most of them before the spider completely eats or messes it up. We are really cool. I didn't think we were getting that untangled, chat. Mm, I think we might be slightly too early to tell. Shiny, yes, it is. So here's the full thing. It's not very big, and that's going to lend into what I was just about to say. We're trying to sex these to tell if it's a male or female, and we were able to uh, artificially wet. um, so when they do molt their exoskeleton or when they shed their exoskeleton, there is moisture in there. They have a special fluid that like helps reveal all of the stuff and helps them be able to slip out. This molt is wet because it was soaking in a cup of water. So this is like extra wet compared to what it normally would be. But even natural molts are pretty slimy. Like dry snake. Yeah, so they do dry up pretty well. It's just when they're super fresh, they're slimy. And of course, if they've been soaking in a cup of water like these ones have been, uh it's slimy. So this one I think might be too small to tell. Um, in some species, the genitalia starts developing sooner, and we're able to see the flap, and we're able to see maybe some of these little bits starting to develop. But if we zoom all the way in on this one, we are looking right at the line here between the two. So those white blobs on either side of the book lungs, we are looking dead in the center of them right now. And I can't tell. And that's fine. Again, honestly, this doesn't really change anything about keeping or anything. It's just, I like to know. So this one may be a bit small to be able to see it, but there are other ones where you would be able to see it already at this stage. And this is also the first time that I've had this species. So I don't know if it's one of those things, sort of like curly hairs, where it's tricky to see and it might be hard to tell at a certain stage. Or this is a male. I don't know. I don't know yet. Um, this this one is a Mexican red leg, I think. Model. Um, Mexican red leg. And the reason that I was hesitant on that is that there's a difference between like the Mexican red knee, the Mexican red leg, the Mexican fire leg, all all different. But this is the one that I am particularly talking about. It's this species. This is Pseudocotyle or Brachypelma amelia. So this is the one that I have, and this is the molt that we're looking at right now. So it might be too small to tell. It might just be a male. I don't know. We'll have to see. I haven't had this one super long, so I haven't had molts to check before this. And of course, as it makes sense, the most recent molt is always going to be the biggest one. So even if I did have one before this, um, we would have a lot better view on this one. So I don't know, chat. I don't know if it's a male. I don't know if it's immature female. We will have to bring it back the next time this thing molts again and see if we can see anything different. So, uh, out of three, gender unrevealed. Yeah, gender unrevealed. We did not get this one. Um, visual difference for the sexism. No, I don't believe so. Um, you may have seen some different looking spiders on that page, and at least the picture that I'm looking at right now is um a plate from a paper that talks about Brachypelma as a whole. So those were probably other species that had like the fully red legs, things like if you did see some that looked different. Fading Star, thanks for the follow. Welcome in. Not bright or anything. Not at this stage, granola. They're immature as well, which is also part of the problem. Sexual dimorphism differences don't typically show up until they're fully adult. That's when like the male will go into the crazy colors and get the hooks and all the pedipalp bits and stuff like that. So, even if this was sexually dimorphic, which I don't think they are, um, it would almost certainly be too early to see that difference if we're not even able to see the internal difference. How old were these two? I probably got this one in 2023. I would say maybe I've had this one for like 2 or 3 years. Um, but I got this one as a like fresh out of the egg sack baby. So it was, maybe a quarter inch long when I got it to start. They're really putting some hours and lots of itty bitty crickets into feeding this thing. But yeah, I haven't had this one super long. Of the three, I think I've had the Socotra the longest, like the blue one. I got that one at a much larger size, but I think I've had that one since like 2021 or 2022. Um, and then my first ever tarantula. Um, she unfortunately passed late last year or earlier this year. I don't really remember because it was sad to think about. But I had her since 2014. Um, the first ever one that I got, unfortunately did pass away recently. But then the next semester when I was TAing the spider biology class, we would we would give out baby tarantulas as like your class project, and then at the very end you could keep it or return it. So when I took it, the spider that I got, and then that was the spider that got me into tarantula keeping and everything like that. Um, she passed away, but then the following year when I was TAing the class, I of course grabbed another spider, and that one still kicking, still got her downstairs. Uh, the one that died, really nice, pretty friendly, would let people hold her. The other one, same species, mean as hell. was not having it, will not have it. Even when I like go to feed her, she'll just start kicking hairs at me, so like she never really looks that nice because she's always bald for an extended period of time because she's always like, "Oh, you're trying to feed me? Fuck you. I'm gonna flick splinters up at you." So, not ideal. But that also just goes to show that bugs do have personality to some extent. Where it was the same species and everything like that, that the one was super chill, the other definitely not. So, I don't know. Is what it is. Not too worried about that. But all right, chat. Do I like spiders? Norton Mando. Sure do. I don't know if you can see the giant 6 foot tall spider poster, or if you saw the tarantula molts that we were looking at, or if you look at this giant box of tarantula molts that we've got right here. But you really clued in on something there. Welcome to the stream. Thanks for hanging out. Spider salad. I like that. That's very funny. All right. Transition time. Uh that was all I had for the tarantula sex identification. Um Now we are moving into termite time. Termite time. Hell yeah. All right, so this was something. Thank you, Fading Star. We're real high budget around these parts, you know. Uh, you guys weren't around when the starting soon screen, which now looks like this. That used to actually just be a green sticky note. The thing in the bottom, or the thing in the middle there, that's what the old one looked like. Yes, I do still have it. It's hanging up on a bulletin board over there. Los Pollo's cousin. I'm not the chicken's cousin. Okay. So story time. A little bit before we jump into termite time. Do you guys remember when I went to? Oh, Los Pollos is a streamer. No, as far as I know, my one cousin that I have does not stream. Oh, sucks. Um, do you guys remember back in February when I had that like 2 week long work trip that I wasn't able to stream, and I was doing chats from like a hotel? Um, I can finally talk about that a little bit more. We were sent to South Florida because we are dealing with a new invasive pest. Ah, thanks, Granola. Thanks for the gift sub to Fading Star. Um, this thing has been in Florida for quite a while, and I don't really know why. Not screwworm. Not screwworm. Not yet, at least. Not orange crops this time. We'll get there. So it's a termite. If you couldn't guess from it being termite time, and me talking about this right now. Thanks, Ophelia. Um, it's a termite that has been here since like 2002 and hadn't moved really since then. Like it was found in one area and it didn't really spread. So we weren't super concerned about it. But last year, at the end of the year there was a bit of spread finally, and they were like, no, we're gonna need to try to curb this. So they sent us down. They literally call it when we go out on these things getting deployed. So I felt like a bit like the military. Um, I was sent down for 2 weeks to do termite work, and the termite that we were there after was Nasuta termes corniger, which is frankly a really cool fucking termite. Um, and so I was down there specifically looking for these really big nests of these termites. But along the way, since I was there for 2 weeks, I was like, well, I might as well kind of get into other termites so I can have like a better frame of reference of like what we're actually supposed to be going after. I did not prepare the picture to share with them. Above ground nests. Not quite mounded granola. Um, but like this. Hopefully this focuses for you guys. That's like a little hand shovel thing right there up against the nest. So you can see sort of roughly how big it is. In the tropics, these are arboreal. They're going to be making big nests up in trees. We're not quite seeing that yet in Florida. Um, so we were there to deal with it. And then this is to give a better sense of scale. Nicole, hello. Give you a bit of a better sense of scale. That's the same one. So that was after we broke it off of the base of that tree. That's the size of the termite nest that we grabbed off. I was probably holding like 1 to 2 million termites in my hand there, which was pretty cool experience, not gonna lie. Um, but we were down there specifically sent to try to get rid of uh to try to get rid of and find where these termites were. So I have some of the Nasuta termes, and these are really cool, and we will talk about them more in depth. But I also got a couple of other termites while I was down there that are pretty interesting that I have not sat down to key out and identify yet. And I would like to do so today. So that is the plan. I have these three other termites um, that we will look at. But first, show you sort of the highlight and the thing that we were actually there after. Not getting the reflection from the alcohol. Select, grabbing out the good ones. It was fun, Wild Child. I enjoyed it, and my um it kind of gave me an idea of how this all works since I was still pretty new to this organization when I went down for termites. Somebody had suggested screwworm when I mentioned that there was an invasive thing. If screwworm does show up here, I will almost certainly be going down to look for it and to try to work on it a little bit. But that has not happened yet, so we won't worry about that just yet. All right. Are we ready to see the cool thing? Cut here. Da 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 da. Pickle! Perfect timing. Da, 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 da. Thank you for the toes, Pickle. Thank you. Thank you for the toe. So these are the soldiers of the termite that we were looking for. So Nasuta termes, a nasut, is the uh nose or like unicorn like projection there. So that's why these are known as Nasuta termes, is that they have these noses essentially. And Heartless. I haven't played King Hearts ever. Oh, I can see that. I can sort of see that. Waiting. But these are pretty sick, honestly. um, the enlarged heads here with the nozzle, they actually shoot a chemical out at their opponents or predators trying to come in and eat them. These are soldiers, so these are there for colony defense. The regular workers in the colony just look like this. They look like every other termite. Kind of cream colored. No real modifications for doing anything. This is what a worker termite would look like. So these are the ones that are going to be doing a lot of the wood chewing and the tunneling and all that sort of stuff. The soldiers are going to be lining the edges uh, to help defend these workers. So the thing with termites is that almost all of the workers look the same, regardless of what termite it is. It is just like a worker termite shaped thing. So if you're trying to do any identification of termites, you have to have either a soldier, which we do, or an alate, which is an individual that has wings. So, like the reproductive caste, it's just like ants. When termites start to reproduce at like the colony level, they will produce winged individuals that are called alates. Yeah, Nicole, the ones that were in your house. And I don't have any alates of this species, which is good because they're not reproducing. They weren't reproducing quite yet, so we were able to hammer them while they were nesting. But we did end up finding some pre-alates, which are these termites that will eventually become flighted. So those little knobs on the back are her wing buds or his wing buds. I actually don't know in this case. Um, and with another couple molts after a couple months, uh, this one would have been ready to fly. So we we're trying to prevent that at all costs because we don't want them flying and reproducing and making more of these things, right? We're trying to eliminate. So I was able to grab these couple of things here, but the Pseudotermes, the genus, is really sick. See if I can get you. I'm gonna watch a YouTube video. Yes, Nicole. What is your question? Cool. We'll come back to it. We have this like 1 minute video. Hams. What's up? So you can see it really well right there. Uh, so this is not the same species. This is a different Nasutotermes, but this is the conehead. This little strip right here is the acid going and spraying onto the ant. So they're able to do that, and it kind of hurts. If you're an ant or whatever they're fighting against. Sometimes it's like acid, sometimes it's sticky, so sometimes it's just kind of like gums you up. But that's why they have these cone heads. Inside of there, they have this like big reservoir that they're able to spray with, and the nozzle just helps them like aim where it's supposed to go. How much of their body is filled with that acid? I think. Uh, here, Lenny. I don't know. I think it's just up here in the head. That would make the most sense to me, but I actually don't know. Oh god, Nicole. Current volume is not equally but do termite genes just code for wings naturally? Or is this a stem cell situation where the cells are able to differentiate and create wings? Yes, I can do that, Starberry. Um, also in general. Um, I don't know, Nicole, because not all termites have wings, right? Like these guys that we're looking at right now will never have wings. It's just alates that are purposely born for reproduction. So I think I don't know how it works in termites, and I'm like vaguely aware of how it works in ants. Is that they are fed specific diets that will trigger the development of wings. Um, how does the juice not hurt their brain? I think it's a separate cavity. We'll look at it from the side, and it'll give you like a better idea of like how this whole little thing works. But yeah, Nicole, ants, as far as I understand it, the yes, exactly. It is like royal jelly. They're fed a specific thing that has some sort of combination in it that kicks them off into being reproductives rather than just being a normal like worker ant. And so I imagine it's probably the same in termites, except the big difference is that ants are holometabolists, which means that they go through four life stages. There's the egg, there's the larva, there's a pupa, and then there's an adult. Termites are hemimetabolists, which means that they only go through three reproductive stages. There's an egg, there's a nymph, which is just like a termite that look like a baby termite that looks like an adult termite, just way smaller. And then there's the adult. So I don't actually know the more that I am saying about it. I have no idea how it works in termites because it's not like they go from a larval stage into an adult stage with wings through a pupa. They would just naturally grow that way. It's a good question. I'm gonna I'm gonna Google it for you later. My note will say, "How the fuck termites work?" And that will be the question. Sticky. We're gonna put it on the monitor so it's in the way and I don't forget about it. Yeah, I'll get back to you. I can some post show notes, I guess, in the Discord. This is a cool question, and I truthfully don't know. Not a beetle, so I don't keep track of it. um, but all right, let's check these guys out a little bit better. So looking underneath, unrelated, just remembered to find out about what the ant lion was doing cats last week. Yes, it was in fact laying eggs. I need to post it with the recap, but it was laying eggs. So you can see over here on this one, like the extent of the head capsule. It does come all the way around, and it does appear that the soldiers, at least, are blind. Soldier coneheads are blind. Okay, great. Good to know. It would make sense to me, at least, that the workers are also blind. Um, if they're living inside of a log their whole life and they don't really need to see very much, uh, yeah, looks like the worker is blind too. But the alate, the Open link. That's fine. Plug in. Look at this later. Add it to my. But this is the pre-alate one. And so right here behind the antenna is maybe the weakest insect eye that we've seen on stream yet. So right here at the tip of the pin, that's the eye. It's not very sclerotized, so it's not very hardened over, but it's also uh very, very few pixels, if you will. You know how we always talk about insect vision and how it's sort of like the more pixels, the better the screen, the better the vision is. This one, we could we could reasonably count how many there are. Uh, Giving a guess, I would say that there's probably like 80 to 100 individual little facets here. We would be able to count it, but it's like I would need maybe another like 10% magnification on the scope to be able to do it comfortably. Um, so we'll probably have to leave it. But it's enough where we could count, as opposed to a praying mantis, which has like thousands on each eye. So they don't have very good vision at all. Uh, and it makes sense that they don't really need it. Termites do live in some sort of like contained thing. It's either these ones live in like these big arboreal nests that they make, or they're living in logs, or they're living underground. So any way that you slice it, termites don't need to be able to see very far or very well. Um, but alates, the ones that fly, do need to be able to navigate like the tiniest bit. So I guess evolution has let them keep these like very tiny faceted eyes. Sometimes it doesn't look like it because there's just so many. No, yeah, Starberry. All insects will. Well, depends how you want to phrase that question. Um, all of like the big insect eyes that you're used to seeing are compound eyes, which means that they have like different individual segments that you're able to see with the eye. This is the biggest thing that I have just like out on the table. Um, so maybe not like the best example of this, but it should be pretty solid. Um, this longhorn beetle, from a distance, doesn't look. It looks like the eye's pretty smooth. At least, okay, it looks more segmented on your screen, I guess. But if we go all the way in, each one of those things is like an individual little segment called a rhabdom. And they have like an insect equivalent of rods and cones on the inside that allow them to see color and things like that. So all of the big insect, like quote unquote bug eyes that you're familiar with, are going to be compound. They're all going to have these little tiny, tiny divisions. Um, I don't really have anything that's got insane vision. A mantis would be a really good example of them that has like thousands. But you can see here that like each individual row is probably like at least if no granola jumpers are different. Jumping spiders do not have compound eyes. insects have compound eyes, but not all arachnids. Arachnids don't actually. Um, but yeah, I mean, let's. I'm gonna count the row. You guys can't see my cursor, but I'm gonna count from right over here, like sort of up at the top, around to where the antenna covers it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And that's just like a very small portion of the eye. The next line over has 1, 2, 3, 4. 18, 19. So just in like these first two arcs here that are the not the main portion of the eye, there's probably as many segments on here as there are on the entirety of the eye of those termites. So, yeah, insect eyes are crazy. They're all segmented except for the ocelli, which are the simple eyes. Donkus, hello, welcome in. Um, so, um, yeah. So all insect eyes are going to be like this. This beetle has pretty good vision. We go back to our termite friend here. Uh, this one ain't seeing shit. It's certainly not seeing very well out of this. So, that's what I was doing back in February. Now that I'm allowed to talk about it, and that was the start of termite time, showing you the termite that started this whole thing of me wanting to learn termites a little bit better. Like I was saying before, you need to have soldiers or alates in order to be able to identify termites at all. You physically cannot do it with just the workers. It doesn't work. Um, so if any of you are looking to get into collecting termites ever, I have no idea what you plan to do with your free time. If it's termites, that's cool. Um, you always need to make sure you get one that looks different, whether it has big jaws or just like a hardened head. Uh, Soldiers and alates are relatively easy to find in the colony, so just make sure you get those if you're ever going to go try to collect termites. Um, so I have a couple of these other termites here that have some pretty neat soldiers. If I'm being real, there's some pretty interesting uh, morphologies here. And so now I would like to look at these. And this is how we will wrap up stream here, is hopefully go through these termites and figure out who they are. Get my air out of here. Hit the scope. All right, so for these ones, I only grabbed soldiers. They were the only ones that I was finding, which is nice, because I needed them. But I don't have a representative of what these workers look like. Is that And there we go. So these are pretty sick. These are the soldiers in this group specifically, and so they look quite different than the soldiers did in the Conehead termites. Such a good stream. Roach is making a bat. That's crazy. There are ads coming up in like 2 minutes, just so y'all are aware. So yeah, these adults look quite different than these soldiers look quite different than the termites that we had just a moment ago. Um, I have to find the key. $40 in your favorite color. How am I going to do this? I think this kind of works. How do we feel about that? Oops. Is that visible? Y'all can read that? And you can still see the termites over here on the right hand side under me. Good, we're not duplicating. Okay, cool. So this is the key to Florida termites, and I know that some of it's going to be cut off over here because of the termite picture, but that's okay. We can work around that. We're going to be hanging out up in this key here because we have a soldier, which has the modified head morphology and not the winged individuals. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 genera of termites. Jesus, Lyndon, what happened? Hello. But also, oh my god. Hope everybody's okay. Hope everybody's alright. Guys, let's not talk about making mustard gas. POS probably. Okay, so we're gonna stay up here in the soldiers key. So there's 11 genera. We've got 10 steps that we can get, so easy thing here. The first one, Nasudiform, i.e., head distinctly modified by a long frontal projection. Termites reduced to non-functional stubs, arboreal. Nasudotermes. Now, we know it's not Nasudotermes because we just saw Nasudotermes, right? If we click on this, it will take us to the picture, and the head of our individual does not look like this. The termites that we're looking at are over here on this side, so you can see right under my camera. Those are the ones that we're looking at. So we're gonna go with Head not distinctly modified by long frontal projection. Mandibles well developed, and they're either subterranean or wood dwelling. I got these in so that's interesting to think about. Anya, welcome in. Hello, hello. So the way the key works, we know it's not distinctly modified. We will go to couplet 2. Couplet 2 now says pronotum as wide as head, wood nesting, or pronotum narrower than head. That's something that we can pretty easily check out. So we have the termites here. Observation. Okay. So in this group, the mandibles are super long and they're kind of curved together at the front. The really big square behind that is the entirety of the head. And then the pronotum, which is the little shield piece behind the head, is the next segment back. Tanya, thank you for the follow. So we're looking to see if that third segment is wider, as wide as the head, or narrower than the head. Focus that a little bit better there. We're looking right at the junction that we need to be looking at. And so across the width of that third segment, it is equal to the width of the head. If not, dare I say, a little bit wider than the head. So I think we are pretty safe at going into the family Calotermitidae, are wood nesting, which again makes sense because I did find these in wood. And that tells us to go to couplet 3. Couplet 3, head blackish, subquadrate, or phragmatic. Versus head orange, rectangular, mandibles projecting far beyond labrum. I think that's a pretty easy answer. Figures 2 or 3. So this is 2. And this is 3. You can see how dark the head is here compared to the one that we're looking at. And so then the one that we would compare it to that would be something that we're supposed to be looking at. Animals projecting either figures 3 through 6. So long projecting mandibles, long projecting mandibles, long projecting mandibles. Easy. Okay. I think that's a pretty easy answer, right? The head is orange. The head is longer than it is wide, so it is rectangular rather than subquadrate, which would mean sub is almost and quadrate would be like square. So the head is longer than it is wide, which would make it rectangular, and the mandibles are really long, projecting far beyond the labrum. Easy, we go to 5. 5 here, anterior margin of pronotum rounded, pronotum collar-like, much wider than long, third antennal articles only slightly enlarged, or anterior margin of pronotum angular, pronotum shield-like, slightly wider than long, third antennal article enlarged or club-like. So let's see what that looks like here in figure 6. A couple things. The pronotum thing, it's angular here in the middle, so there's like this cutout. But the key thing here, I think, is this enlarged third antennal segment. So if we look again at our termite that we are currently looking at right now, we are trying to see if it has that enlarged third antennal segment, and also if the front of the pronotum is angular. Let me reposition this guy again, get a better view. So from this, we do see that the front of that pronotum is angled and kind of cut out on the inside. And then if we let it fall to the side, we can see that the third antennal segment is pretty big. It's bigger than the segment before and the segment after it. And it might not be the easiest thing to see right here, right where the pinhead is right now. So that's the third segment. Back. Oh, what's up? So again, the third segment, 1, 2, 3 here, is pretty enlarged, pretty club-like, I would say. Oh, uni orientation. Very exciting, Starberry. Congratulations. Hope you have fun. Thank you for stopping by while you could. Okay. So, based on this, we've checked that. We checked that. We've checked that. And size of termies. Nice. That was pretty easy. Having not used the termite key before, getting to something there, uh, pretty nice, honestly. Yeah, so that worked out right. Okay, cool. Let me make a label quick. Just gonna get a little piece of paper here and just write the genus. Um, I still do need to print regular labels for these. So eventually I will make them. I have handwritten ones in here right now, so they're not totally dataless, but I will get back to them eventually. One down, two to go. Uh, we are going to pause for a brief intermission. I gotta pee. So I will be back in just a second. All right, we are back. Spicy air. Oh, I'm glad you guys like the BRB. Yeah, I don't get to use it very often. I don't usually leave, but Tender Lemon Art, my office mate at work, very talented. Um, did the starting soon, did the BRB, did all the sub badges. So he has been a huge help for the channel. But yeah, I don't get to use it very often, but it is very cute. I agree. Thanks, Ophelia. Do I have an Instagram? I don't know. I mean, they might follow me. If she does, she's not super active on it. Eh, it looks like just her. Oh no, February this year. Okay. Uh, uh, there you go, Beanables. Also, hello. How are you doing? Oh, Golding, you missed it. We're already past there. We're in termite time. Yes, not breeding tarantulas, but trying to identify the sex of one of the tarantulas. But the VODs go up on YouTube if you want to scroll back, that's also fine. Um yeah, that's been going through the bug observations. Trick tracks, thanks for the follow. Somebody disagreed with me on a beetle, which is so funny because I'm Mr. Beetle. That's very funny. I haven't been on yet today. The pollinator census. Um, I have not been active in it today. Work was a little bit crazy, but I do intend to go through a lot of that stuff. Um, Maybe let some of the first day craziness die down a bit, and then we can try a bit more. Maybe Evan only has two types of turns. Because that other vial I don't think had any. Ruby Goblin, thank you for the follow. 15 on leaderboard, need more observations, swallowing up Roxers. I bet. I bet Roxers whole lesson in the Danish genus. Alexis Lyndon texted me about that earlier. She said she was like queens and monarchs and admiral, not admirals. That's a different genus, but like we're gonna need some help with that. So I can put something together. We'll see how the growing pains go in terms of uh identifications and how rough they are. I haven't checked it all today, so I'm at you. Soldier's voice versus the big yeah voice versus the bottom of the hummingbird. So I was looking at that the other day. Lyndon also sent me the hummingbird thing. There was a video, and you could tell from the video because of the sound that it was a black chin. I think most of them that I have actually seen photos of have been black chins. Um, but especially the immatures and the female hummingbirds, a lot of the time identification is, at least for me in the field, is behavior based. The one thing that I know I mentioned um is that black chin hummingbirds will when they're feeding, they're pumping their tail a lot, whereas uh ruby throat, which is like the other most likely species in that area, have relatively still tails when they're flying. So that's really hard to see with just a photo. You actually can't see that. It's just a photo. And the sounds that they make are quite different as well. So I think there's going to be probably a genus level uh a genus level ID might be fine. I noticed a lot of people in sort of the original set of guesses being like, "Oh, we have to get to species on this." No, we don't. There's going to be some really bad pictures that we get that is going to be like, "Hey, we can tell this to family and that's it." That's still variable, that's still really valuable information, and seeing what we've talked about in the past with like how hard bug ID is and the fact that you need to see X, Y, and Z character that are all very small and on the underside and whatever, we're not gonna get to species like most of the time. Like most of the time. So anything is good, but it is better to be reserved than to just be throwing names out there. There is a whole like confirming process that there are going to be like admins on the site that are able to like confirm observations, which will lock it and be like, yes, this is definitely what it is. And then no one else will be able to get points or add or whatever anything on there. I don't know who else has that right now. I know I do. Um, and so some of this stuff, we'll maybe get it to family, we'll maybe get it to genus, and that's going to be it. I don't think there's like a reasonable chance at all that we get to species. I'm just going to be able to lock it at the genus level. Um, but this is not here nor there. About the Alveus thing. We will regroup about that certainly at another time. Um, but right now, it's termite time. So we're hopping back into this. Bias. Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to go through and check on that later, but that's not what we're doing right now. Going back to termite time. Somebody asked me a question. Trick tracks. I'm sorry. I wasn't glossing over this. We just weren't talking termites just yet. Are the floating bits just dust or is the sample decomposing? So these came out of wood. There's a bunch of different things going on in here. So up to uh there's like pieces of wood. There's a beetle. There's a beetle right here. So the stuff that's floating around here it's not decomposing, it's just little pieces of wood that got sucked up with the sample. Lizard that's a wing, not a mouth is crazy. Okay. So with these ones, we have workers and we have soldiers. So the workers, like we talked about earlier, are going to be of no help to us. This is the worker. Oh, that's fucked up. Do I? Oh no. There we go. The the normal way that I have to move this is different because the orientation of this screen is different than the orientation that I usually have the microscope at. So moving the sample around is a little bit harder than it usually is. Back from supper. Your pea pasta, bird. It looked good. Not gonna lie. Okay, so the worker termite here is not going to be too much help in terms of identification. However, this one definitely is. Randall Oh, hello. Welcome in. So this one, in this case, uh, this is what the soldier looks like in this group. And you can sort of see that it is pretty similar to what we were just looking at. It has the long rectangular head, it has these really long mandibles, but these are different. The nest sort of type that they were in was quite different. The third, I can't zoom in any further, that's all I got, but the third antennal segment is not big and clubbed. So these are different, even though superficially they look similar. But anytime we start the key, we have to always go back to the beginning. So we're again making sure we're looking at soldiers. And then the first one asks if they're nasudiform or not, meaning they have that little cone head of the termite that we looked at that started this whole thing. So it's not Nasutotermes. We know this. We go down here, which tells us to go to uh, couplet 2. Couplet 2, pronotum as wide as head, wood nesting, or pronotum narrower than head, doesn't really specify where the nest thing is. So on the other one, remember the pronotum is that little shield right behind the head, and it was really wide. It was wider than the head itself. Let's see what we think about this one. So this big portion here, Oriole. So this big piece here is the head. This piece here is the pronotum. What do we think about that? Is that as wide as the head, or is that narrower than the head? Is this thing on? Narrower, looks narrower. Good. Yes. I think that's pretty clear cut. Um, I wish I had I wish I had the other one like right next to this, but this is a very different pronotal shape than we had last time, at least, or ratio, I guess I should say. Um, the head is much wider in this case, so that takes us to here, which gets us to couplet 7 now. This is a different part of the key than we were before. the first one we ended up here. So now we have to jump all the way down to 7. Pronotum saddle shaped in lateral view, blade of each mandible with a single marginal tooth. Or pronotum flat, not saddle shaped, blade of each mandible without marginal teeth. So this is asking for lateral view of the pronotum, which would be from the side, and getting the termite to sit nicely from the side so I can look at the pronotum. Uh, I don't think is going to happen. It would make it a lot easier if we weren't trying to keep everything in focus for stream. But there is a second character here. Is the blade of the mandible with or without marginal teeth? Sugoi. Regular title is Sexting Tarantulas. Need to go to bed. I certainly don't think you're the only one. Got to text, hey, you up 8 different times if you're sexting tarantulas. Um, no, we were using the molts, the shed exoskeletons to try to tell whether or not they were male or female. So we were identifying the sex of the tarantulas. We were not sexting the tarantulas. Rest assured. Um, okay, so I don't think we're gonna get to this pronotum thing. Uh, but let's see what we can see about the mandible. Ooh. You up as types. They could type so fast. They just wait. Um, I have no idea how visible this is on here. Vic, hello, welcome in. I can't really tell how well you guys can see the mandibles. Um, but right now they're crossed over one another. And so what we're trying to do is look along that inside edge. That's the marginal tooth, is the margin on the inside of that curve. And if you can, they're very visible, stall. That's my wording was poor there. I don't know how zoomed in you are on them and if you can see the mandible edge or not very well. Uh does it look like it has a tooth like on the inside of the mandible or not? Our approach the condensation. No, 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 no. Excellent. Very good. Okay, you guys can see it then. Or you can see the mandible, but you can see that there's no tooth on the mandible. Good. I would agree with that. So that then takes us to couplet 8. Head capsule rectangular, fontanelle faint or absent, opening dorsally. Mandible blades straight, except for 30 to 60 degree curvature in the distal 1/4. A lot of jargon there to cover, but we can handle it. Or head capsule narrowed anteriorly, fontanelle distinct, opening to anterior or to dorsum. Mandibles curved around 70 degrees in distal 1/4. Okay. So the head capsule is the actual modified head of this thing. So we can see whether it is 7. So this is head capsule rectangular, where it's basically straight down the sides and the front margin is as wide as the hind margin. Or this is the other option if it's narrowed anteriorly. So you can see here the hind margin of the head is a lot wider than it is here up to the front. What do we think about that? Rectangular or narrowed? Rectangular? Def rectangular? I like that. Like that a lot, actually. Okay, so based on this section alone, we would go to couplet 9. But a couple of these other things that are on here, the Fontanelle is a termite specific character that's like a little hole. Uh, it's the structure of which the Nasuda termes, the acid comes out. It's the hole where like glue and stuff comes out of other groups. It's just sort of like a little hole opening on the top of the head. In this one, it's either faint or absent and opening towards the top. And then the mandibles straight except for a 30 to 60 degree curve in distal 1/4. So 30 to 60, like a full 90-degree curve would be like this. 80, 70, 60 to like 30 degrees to 60 degrees, something like this. It's not super curved at the apex, right? Whereas on the other one, we can look at this again. So you can see that the thing goes out. Stompy's Fro, thanks for the follow. The mandibles go out and then they're curved at the top, and there's no real fontanelle of which to speak. This is the other option, where the fontanelle is present. That doesn't help. Oh, that doesn't. There it goes. Okay. The fontanelle is this like very distinct hole up here, or on the front of the head. Simba, thanks for the follow. You're not fake. You're all good. You're all good. Welcome in now, though. Ooh, Stompy's Fro's been logging stuff in Pollinator Garden. Sick. So the fontanelle is this opening here or this opening up here. And you'll also notice that these mandibles curve a lot more at the tip. So, based on just the pronotum, which was the easiest thing that we were able to see, go and then gotta zoom in so y'all can read it. Um, based on the head capsule alone, it's rectangular, but all this other stuff tells us to go to couplet 9. Bryn, I guess. Thank you for the follow. Welcome. You're working on termite time here. So it tells us to go to couplet 9. Bases of mandibles slender, blades rather straight. Heterotermes, or bases of mandibles broad, left blade S curve. Figure 7b. So that's going to be pretty nice. We can just click here. And there's the full set of pictures. So this one is mandible bases narrow, and the left mandible relatively straight. versus base of mandible wide, left mandible S curve. So if you follow it from the top up here, it sort of looks like you're drawing the letter S. And so now we're trying to compare that to over here where the mouse is going now, the termite that's directly under me. Do we think that those mandible bases are wide? And do we think do we think those bases are wide and the left thing is S curved, or do we think they're narrow and relatively straight? Fat bases. All right, Roche. Fat bases, fat bases, fat bases. S curved as well. I think y'all are correct. So down here, this is the genus Reticulotermes. This is the one that they're using as the example. Let's see what the key says. About one. Bases of mandibles broad. Yes. Left blade S curved. 7B. Reticulotermes. Hey, I think we did it. I like that. And that takes us back to this picture. Again, showing us the fat bases there and the S curve. Love me a woman with a fat base. Cool. Yeah. I think that worked great, actually. Those are some fat bases if I've ever seen them. And that character is true and works for all of these different all of these soldiers that are in here. So this one I did find workers with it as well. So that's a soldier, that's a worker, that's a worker, that's a soldier. So I have a little bit more variety here in terms of what we're looking at. There is also this wayward willow leaf beetle that I have in here. So that was just chilling. I must have collected it at the same time as I collected these termites and just shoved everything in the same vial. Um, but that's cool. We did termite time. We hit some IDs. Quite nice. Um, my pet seems to be working okay. Suck. Abducted. Hola. Hello. Come in. Thanks for stopping by. I think now's a good opportunity to clean some of my dirt out of here. Just not gonna put it back in. Termites are back. Here. I'm going to put my beetle back as well. And then my quality label. And just do a little temp one here. What did we say it was? Reticulotermes. Let's give it a. I don't know how weird this is going to sound to you guys, but I don't know if that was good at all. I have no idea if it picked up the scissors cutting the label, but sexing bug is lucky triggering. Took genetics in college and had to sex lower thousands of your soft. Oh yeah, yeah. It's nuts. I know somebody right now that's working on a project looking at like sex ratios in ground beetle populations. Um, and so is going through like thousands of specimens and looking at the little front tarsal claws. In males, ground beetles typically have this like widened front pad that helps them hold on to females, where females won't have that. And the degree as to how wide those things are changes within the family. And so they're trying to go through like all of these bulk samples and everything like that and just be like, oh yeah, this one's a male, this one's a male, this one's a female, whatever, blah blah blah. Um and it's just so brutal. I can't imagine doing it with fruit flies though, where you have like where they grow so fast and you can just have like a bajillion of them right away. Uh doing ground beetles, like you at least have some buffer of like they don't reproduce in a lab in a week. So I can't imagine doing it with fruit flies. I mean, I have done it with fruit flies, genetics class and whatnot. Um, but yeah, quite tough. Um, quite tough otherwise. 3 times a day. Holy, that's nuts. That's so much lab time. But hey, could be fun, and now you have a skill set. All right, everyone. That was Termite time. I know the title says more question mark, and I think we're gonna go with question mark, but no. Um, it is later than I was expecting, and I'm a little sleepy, so I don't think we're gonna do more tonight. We do have the special, uh, the box of mysteries, which I'm just gonna go put back down in my freezer. The box of mysteries is not going anywhere. In fact, it's just continuing to get bigger. um, so eventually, we will start going through some of that stuff because I got to work through it at some point, right? Um, but we've got things we can do. Maybe next Monday we can get into some of the mysterious stuff. But thanks all for hanging out. Hope that was a fun one. We're just about to hit 3 hours, so um, I think good time to wrap up. What do I think of the Polynear Census game? It's sick, Simba. So I will wrap up just a little bit talking about this. Um, I was busy today, so I was not able to join the live discussion. So I haven't seen Maya's demonstration about it and like how she explained it to you guys, how it's going to work. I've had back end access for it for probably like a month. Um, and so I've gone in and seen the testing. I've seen how the system works. I see how the ID system and everything works. but I haven't had a chance to see it after everyone else got introduced to it yet. So I don't know what has been seen in the past day or so, in the past 8 hours, give or take. Um, I'll have to clear it with Maya first, but I think there is a possibility that going through pollinator cam stuff does become Evan content, where we would go through, talk about why or why not something was what it was, um, and we might be able to do that here. But again, that's a Maya question, so we'll have to see what Boss Lady thinks about it. Um, but if not here, we will definitely organize something about helping some of the tricky IDs. I haven't seen it yet on the back end, but I've heard the Monarch, Viceroy, Queen, and I always forget the fourth one. All of like the Danis things are tricky and super valid. Um, so yeah, I'll at least put something together for that. How often do I plan on verifying? I do have a say. I don't know that I'm the only final boss on it. Um, I think that's all I'll say about that. Um, it depends. It depends how fast they're coming in. Right now, I'm gonna hopefully try and keep up with it uh a lot so people can get feedback on the process and how everything is going. But it depends, especially throughout the year where it might be really slow in winter and certainly like picking up here in the next couple months going through summer. So we shall see. It obviously just launched today, so I don't know how often I will need to go through things versus how often they're going to want me to go through things versus how often things will have to get gone through. So all of that is still pretty up in the air at this point just because it is such a new process, but we will figure it out surely. Um, but thanks for hanging out, guys. It has been fun as always. Uh, Joe Mama is still trying to get Purple Martin Conservation to partner. So I'm gonna send y'all over to look at some birdies. Tell them Evan sent you. But I will see you guys next time. Wednesday chat chats on Alveus. Be there, be square. Exclamation point bug cord if you want. There is a Discord here as well. So check that out. I posted the video of the termites that we did earlier in there already. Yeah, check that if you would like. I'm going to send y'all to go. Bye.